of the National Democratic Congress. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Sana, and good morning to all your colleagues at Radio Gold, and also to all your very many listeners in Ghana and way beyond the country. Happy to be here. Always, I feel home when I'm here.
It's always nice to see you. Always nice to see
Yeah,
you.
I'll be happy to be here
Yeah.
as always. And let me use the opportunity to, since I've not really been here since, use the opportunity to thank you, thank all your colleagues who work with you. I mean, for opportunity opportunities that were given to me during the campaign to be able to come here and speak to the delegates across the country and also, to the generality of the Ghanaian citizenry. It's always a beautiful opportunity to speak here, and I think I'm grateful for the opportunity. And also, thank you for all the quiet support. I wouldn't say necessarily that you're biased towards me or anything, but at least I know you generally wish me well, and of course your many listeners as well. I want to thank them for being there.
You're General Secretary now. You've been in the job for a while now. But before then, the campaign offered you an opportunity to go around the country and speak to the party delegates. At the time, what were the things you learned from about the party around the country before you even assumed the position?
Yeah, you're right. That clearly was very grueling because, as you know, the timetable was so kind of congested. So you made it that between the time campaigns were officially due to begin and the time the Congress was coming, there was so little time, and we needed to literally cross the length and breadth of the country. So it was quite very, very challenging, very physically draining and all. And of course, I'm sure for most people who actually will watch me at the time, you know that it really took a toll because
Yes.
it was very draining, very, very draining. But we are grateful to God for journey mercies, and that we're able to go the length and breadth of the country. It's quite well. I would say generally you saw a nation. I would say generally that physical infrastructure was a big challenge. I mean, you could notice that as you travel across the length and breadth of the country, that there's clearly a lot to still be done. Obviously, from what I see, it's pretty obvious that much as we had not accomplished all that we wanted even before, by and large, I'm sure if the levels to which we had gone earlier had been continued over the last, should I say, 7, 8 years, we should have had a lot more achieved over the period.
Okay.
In terms of meeting all the delegates, so it's a great pleasure meeting them. Picking up their concerns, appreciating the issues that are dear to them. The love for the party was everywhere you pass. You could see genuine, deep love for the party, which is good to know. Of course, they express their frustrations, their difficulties, their hopes, generally about the state of the country, the way our friends in government are managing things. Naturally, you could see a lot of, shall I call it, serious concerns about how things had gone. And of course, the hope that something must change quickly, and generally putting their hopes in what NDC as a party could do, and the hope that a new leadership will come that will be able to galvanize all of them in order for us to work very hard to win power, not just for the sake of NDC, but also for the sake of this country, because the way things have gone is basically just gone south, downhill, and something must give. So I think I pick that sentiment traveling across and meeting all the delegates. So it's just a beautiful experience, having time listening to them, because it was much more listening as it was talking as well. I mean, people think campaign is just about you going to talk, but often you want to listen. You want to, because it's quite a lot of wisdom you pick up as you listen to our ordinary people, and you're listening from different perspectives. You know also the different things that are happening in different constituencies, what the issues are. It helps you generally to be able to be in a position to formulate answers and solutions, and also drive the party, knowing the different places and the issues that are concerned, and be able to draw the wisdom from different parts. I mean, in order to be a good leader. So I would say great experience.
Have you still been able to figure out why, of the three people that were put up, they chose you? I know you have a lot of faith in your own capacity, but there must be something that convinced them. Have you still been?
That's a good question. That's a good question. But to say first of all that I'm sure you would have noticed. I mean, throughout the campaign that we had a system that was largely ground operation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't do too much of, if you know, I mean, I was not too much seen on social media like some of my contestants were seeing. So, especially traditional media, when they did their own, what you call indirect polls or whatever, sentiment and perceptions, they were largely of the view that I was actually not even in the race at all. I mean, I kept hearing, I kept smiling because we wanted to just focus on, I mean, very direct, effective organization and meeting on the people. And we did. What will I say really did work? First and foremost, I think you must appreciate that in this party, just as generally in politics, people look at track record.
Okay.
Yeah, people look at track record. So I think track record was very important.
Okay.
I've had the privilege of having served in the party, and I think people remember very fondly roles that I played in the past in terms of helping the party. So I think that clearly was there. It's true, though, that quite a lot of the delegates we have at the moment are some relatively younger.
Okay.
So no do remember, I mean, those roles in the past, but I think they kind of pick it up a bit. And of course, having also had the opportunities to serve in other capacities of the party, I think people do recall that as well. Or at least an effort was made to send that kind of message down. And of course, when we went around, we were able to kind of remind people as well that we've had the opportunity to accumulate experience serving in different capacities, and we now in a position to bring all that experience, I mean, to the service of the party. I would also say that apart from, of course, the message that we try to convey, which was a message of things that we thought were critical that we needed to do, I mean, how to help the party to be able to win back power. I think by and large also, I would say I transmitted a certain level of trustworthiness.
Okay.
And that is always very important for people. They want to be sure that this is a leader we believe we can trust. This person we feel is not just saying what he's saying, but he would be able to really accomplish what he's talking about. So I think that generates confidence. People feel like, we can trust what he's saying. And I think that's critical. That's critical in terms of generating that confidence. Of course, I mean, if you notice my the three main themes I use for my campaign, I spoke about courage. Courage of conviction, courage to be able to stand when it matters and do what has to be done. I spoke about trustworthiness, and also I spoke about experience. So the first part, which is experience, generally is what generally the stock of experience I've garnered, I mean, for the party, right from 1992 when I started as a young student who was a leader on campus. I mean, the very first election, and of course different experiences I've had, should I call it actively engaging on the media, starting as a caller into radio stations. I mean, I would say back from 1998, and then gradually into helping the party media in particular, appearing on various programs, speaking on behalf of the party. Then of course, I mean, becoming like the spokesperson for Jerry Rawlings for the other period, eventually becoming the propaganda secretary of the party, also helping the party's, should I call it, newspaper, and ability to communicate and all that. And of course, opportunity I was given to serve in that capacity as a one in charge of communication of the party, and how he helped the party to win power. So all the experience we conveyed well. Then of course we convey that you can trust. When we say what we say, you can trust it will be done. We are not perfect. We'll make an effort to make sure what it is we promise and what we want to accomplish. I mean, the gap between is as narrow as possible. And I have a feeling this nation is hungry and thirsty for trustworthiness, especially having seen, should I call it, the total lack of trustworthiness that has become what you call the main attribute from 2017 up to today. a regime that cannot completely be trusted, a regime that cannot be trusted at all, a regime led by people who believe that politics is all about how many lies you can tell and how much dust you can throw in the eyes of the people. When you see that and you are feeling that somebody is trying to emerge into leadership who is putting trustworthiness and credibility as the very center of his politicking and his conduct, naturally people feel a bit happier. You understand? So I think those messages went through. And of course, I think I was able to also transmit clear assurances regarding the need for us, for example, to correct some of the mistakes we made. For example, issues relating to collation of results, for example. I spoke about that a lot, and I also made promises that, listen, we'll be able to work hard to bring about a real change in that respect. And people wanted to do that. People wanted a leadership also that can, in time, rise to the occasion in terms of speaking to the big issues of the country, speaking in a voice that awakens the country and makes the country want to listen to. And I think finally, I would say, I carried also a certain message regarding the need for us to look at politics beyond just the grabbing of power. We need to appreciate that politics essentially is about providing opportunity for noble people to move into leadership. People who have nobility, not just a bunch of hungry, desperate people who think power is all about what you can do to grab power at all costs. Because such people, when they have power, they are not able to honor commitment. Because they believe power is all about deception, power is about doing anything at all you just want to have it. So I sounded that note of the need for restoration of that people with values. I would say largely I went on the team of the founder of the party, Jerry Rawlings, and that team came across a lot of my conversation. There's a need for bringing back what I call not just passion, but also values into the heart of what we do. I mean, to be people who sound truthful as much as possible, people who sound authentic, people who sound passionate, full of fire for the country, for the party, people who are selfless, who want to have things done well, and the need for discipline for the party the party generally, putting the party first before the individual. I would say by and large, those messages I would say resonated, and that led to what I consider to be a very handsome, beautiful victory. And I'm grateful to the delegate across for reposing that confidence in me.
And I'll come back to the issue of passion you talked about. But before I do that, now you've won. Your general secretary is being about this is your
seven months.
This is your 7th month.
I would say,
and 7 months just ended. You are entering this is your 8th month. You are in your 8th month. So far, was it what you anticipated?
Yes, and more.
More?
Yeah, yes, and more. Yes, and more. Exactly what I anticipated and more. I would say, first and foremost, I need to, apart from, of course, being grateful to all the people who made it possible, I also need largely to pay tribute to, the Council of Elders of the party, who clearly have been there in terms of providing broad help. The flag bearer of the party, who even before he became flag bearer, having been former president, former flag bearer, kind of helping you to really settle gradually into your role. And different other, previous executives whose wisdom and counsel we constantly lean on in order to be able to find a way to go. I would say stepping in has also been relatively nice, because with me as a chairman who has been in the same position I'm in now for at least 17 years, and that does help. It helps because you are able, virtually on a day-to-day, to bounce this off. To know exactly, what's been experienced regarding this or that. And then on the back of that experience, we know exactly what we want to do. Because naturally, I bring my own blueprint to everything I do, but also I'm smart enough to appreciate that you need to understand what the old has been in order to be able to know how to move from that or how to improve it. So that broad and very close, harmonious relationship has existed. I do know that some people tend to believe that two personalities that tend to be strong, possibly cannot coexist. But no, you can. Once you appreciate basically your strength, your limitations, you understand the experiences that have been garnered, and you are secure enough to appreciate that, listen, you can still get it done, even when you have a personality that is supposed to be so experienced and so towering. So I would say it's been a beautiful relationship. I would also be grateful for, other executives that have come on board, some of the old and some of the new. So we've tried generally to build a certain should I call it harmonious relationship. It's never perfect all the time, but you can see clearly we are trying to build a team that will be more united, that will understand the broad vision that we want to follow. That essentially, I will tell you, the main thing we've tried to bring through is a need for discipline. It's a need for discipline. It's like an army. Without discipline, you are going to be in some difficulty. So that is a theme we've tried to, let's say, transmit through, not just at the level of the very top level of executive, but try to send that through every structure of the party, subnational, through every structure, all the way to the branches. Discipline, discipline, discipline. What is at stake is a big war, a war for the salvation of the country. It means we have we have no excuse but to make sure we are ready to be able to wage that war on behalf of Ghana and be able to win that war. As I've said all the time, MPP represent a plague as far as this country is concerned. Sadly, they're supposed to be a vehicle. That will be a competing vehicle that will say, listen, it's a competition to see whether this pathway or this alternative is a better alternative or the other. Normally, that's how it's supposed to be. Unfortunately, what we have now is not a competition between two alternatives that are all trying, to help the country. Sadly, what's become is that one vehicle has become a vehicle of darkness. Sadly, so it doesn't mean everyone in that vehicle is wrong, but by and large, the animating spirit in that vehicle is one of selfishness, one that puts nations second, one that puts individuals first, and even not just individuals, a few individuals first, their friends, their acolytes, their accomplices, their collaborators. Basically, that's what it has become. So if you have that situation when a vehicle is getting increasingly more selfish and more dark, it means that we owe a responsibility as a party to ensure that even though we are not perfect, our systems are ready. Our discipline is strong in order for us to be able to wage this war I'm talking about. So we try to transmit that discipline to go through.
Getting the message.
Of course, if you love a party, and also if you truly want to win the war, you may not always be comfortable with everything being said, but by and large, you do appreciate that if we have to win, there's a need for discipline. And discipline means, essentially, if you ask me, essentially means putting yourself second and putting the interest of the group first. Really, that's what it is. For example, we talk about people are not being disciplined on the road. It's simply because they put their interest first and put the community or the well-being of everybody second. That's why they are in discipline. So the party is simply, we're asking the party, always remember to put the NDC first. If you can put the NDC, I'm talking here about party. If I'm talking broader, I will be saying even NDC should always understand that the aim of NDC is to be able to put the country first. But for the individual, as a member of party, you put yourself, second and put the party first. And then the party itself is putting itself second and putting the nation first. If we operate that way, discipline naturally becomes the order of the day. We are able to know what we want. We are able to receive good feedback because we know this feedback is coming from people who genuinely want the good for the party. Then we are all on one page. We are able to prosecute this battle, this important war, for the sake of our country, because we simply cannot afford to lose that war, because it's not just NDC that is going to lose. Ghana is going to lose because the very future of this country is at stake because of what I would call the extremely selfish nature of the group that is in charge. The fact that it simply believes that you have to use lies. It's all about selfishness. It's all about deceiving people. It's almost like becoming a system that's not allowing for true nobility to take leadership. It's about the more ignoble you are, the more leadership should be committed to you. And a nation that is built on such is a nation that is going down. And you can see the soul of this country is down. It's like a nation that's going to be increasingly filled with decadence because of the moral decay of those who are in charge, sadly. And I say all the time, I'm not expecting perfect human beings to be in charge of no country in the world has perfect people, but you must at least have a certain perfection in your passion for your nation. And I don't see that. I don't see that in Nana Akufo-Addo. In fact, it's much worse in Bawumia and quite to their collaborators. If there are a few that really have that, maybe they are too small in number. So that party itself is becoming a decaying vehicle, a rotten vehicle that's a danger to the very future of our country. So NDC, we owe a big responsibility to make sure our discipline is constant in order for us to win that big battle and that big war for the nation.
And I'm guessing that is responding to the question of the alternative. Because there are those who sometimes go to the extent of saying there's not much difference.
Absolutely.
And you seem to be suggesting that the NDC needs to position itself differently.
Critically. That for me is even far more important than policies.
Okay.
Because you see,
values
are critical because values define who you are. Anybody can come with policies. You understand? I mean, even, let's call it, the most ignoble can have a policy. Even selfish people together can have policy. For example, a policy that is going to, we are going to provide this amenity here, we are going to do this about the economy. But because they actually lack a soul, they lack values, what even policies they propose eventually become nothing but empty husk, because there's no real life that is flowing through that policy. The aim of policies are supposed to be vehicles through whom real, should I call it, credibility, your compassion, courage, high values can flow through to affect people and lift the country. But if you have people who are lacking in protocol, those proper values, who are lacking in those ingredients that make you a good person, a good leader, no matter what policies you put in place, what is going to flow through the policy is just your degeneration, your decadence. And that is what we are seeing across the country, affecting different parts of the nation. So at a real level, inner level, there's a certain darkness that is enveloping this country because of the selfishness, the greed, the decadence of those who are in power. And that's why NDC must position itself as a separate vehicle. Not perfect, but they say we are carrying a higher spirit. We are calling ourselves as a party to a higher expectation. We are on a higher mission, a mission of first achieving some internal thing that will make us better, first and foremost, as a party, and therefore to support the country better, and also become vessels that will be able to bring higher policies, better policies, much more compassion, much more creativity, much more opportunity in uniting the country together and understanding what the dream of the founding fathers are, to build a nation that is truly great and strong under God. And I think that's really what this party must always remember and be able to carry through that passion, that love, that fire in his belly for the sake of our country.
And let us explain, because I realized when we were speaking at Asinoth, after the victory,
sure,
your tone has always been the same. Nowadays, anytime you have the opportunity, you speak only on values.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that actually is the very beginning of this party. So it's a party that started big on values, big on values, because of the personality of the founder. It's a person who again and again talks about values. And remember, the party itself was founded on those values. What really brought about this party? A fire in the heart of a man to ensure that what he considered to be a decaying country, a country where darkness was becoming the order of the day, in terms of our social capacity, economic capacity, political leadership, moral capacity. Darkness also enveloping engulfing a nation. Does it need to stop the darkness? I say all the time that even the name he gave his first child indicate the fire he carried. And the fire he carried was, let the darkness come to an end. That's the name he gave the child, Zaneto, or Zaneto means let the darkness come to an end. So that tells you the fire that founder carried. He carried a fire that was bigger than just policies. It carried values. It carried the desire for a country to be better, which is similar to what Kwame Nkrumah carried. You understand? So it was that same kind of, if I call it mission or mantle, that came upon the founder. Now, if a party is birthed from a founder who had deep values, it's important for those who lead a party to appreciate that this is a party that essentially is about values. Then through those values, then we can now start working policy. But I think over time, the party has tended to move a bit too heavy policy and too should I call it, lesser on values. And we need to actually restore the order. The hierarchy must be values first, policy second, and that's a tone some of us are trying to set again. To say there's a need for we have been on a beautiful path, but sometimes it's always good to look back anchor yourself back again to those beginnings, to know exactly what this party started at, and let the fire of those beginnings continue to transmit. And with that, I'm sure we can awaken the country better, we can awaken our own people better, and we can clearly set a difference between who we are and who our opponents are, and let the young people appreciate that no, we are not the same, we are not perfect, we don't have all the solutions, but we clearly are a better vehicle, and Ghana is safer in our hands.
Now we're quite doing a lot of things, because there are analysts who suggest that the basic problem here is the extent to which you allow money to control the politics you run. Filing fees, delegates who you have to sort out, all those require a lot of money. And as long as the system is run that way, these values you are talking about will be secondary to the matter of ensuring that those who pay the piper call the tune. What do you think?
No, I mean, fair. It's fair. I mean, what you said is totally, I mean, that's some of the reality that we see. Even so, when you do a little bit of, should I call it a journey back, I mean, to the beginning, you'll notice that when this democratic journey, I'm talking the fourth Republican democratic journey started, I mean, should I call it the party that had the opportunity to lead is the NDC. So we emerged into victory in the 92 election and also won 96 election. If you do a little track back to see exactly what the nature of politicking was at the time, especially the nature of NDC politicking, trust me, it was again a politicking that was largely value driven. You had people who appreciated this journey is about working for country. This is about organizing the party to be able to do things for the party. It's not about ourselves first. It's about the country first, the well-being of our communities first, before ourselves. So there was quite a lot of sacrificial nature of what was done. It's also so, it was driven at the time, if you will, by people who we call the cadres of a revolution. People who appreciated that country was more important. The community's well-being is more important. Working for the group is better first before. In the happiness of the community and the group, we individuals also can find our happiness. It didn't mean that we needed to be in poverty. It means we can still be creative, make some money, and still remember to put our community, our party, our nation first. So that really was. What really happened was simple. And the truth, a lot of people will tell you, NPP's emergence into power from 2000, winning the election in 2000, started what I would call a moral collapse as far as the politics is concerned. Because unfortunately, these, sometimes I like to call them these younger siblings, in terms of the Fourth Republic, who were the first party, so I call them younger siblings because of that. These younger siblings don't understand that we have a nation to build. Their number one obsession always that we have power to grab, and whatever we have to do to grab power, we got to do. That means some amount of godlessness. It means some amount of what I call, shall I call it, reduce use of conscience in the politics and whatever. Even if you have to do a moral, we have to decay the country morally to achieve what we want, we will. For example, let me give you a typical example. As they came into power, I mean the first time, people clearly do say that the second emergence of the NPP is far worse than the first. I agree. The first was bad. The second is absolutely a disaster. I'm talking about
so what you used to fight
as
propaganda
was a better thing than what we have now.
That regime was better than this
compared to this one. So that tells you the extent of the darkness of this one. This one is what you call how will I call it? Outer darkness, if you can call it that way. That one was dark, but this is outer darkness. This is gross darkness. It tells you again about shall I call it? Meaning, of course, a lot of people eulogize President Kufuor and all. I still believe that there are quite a lot of problems. And that's where I was heading. There's quite a lot of problems. Because essentially, the main spirit of the NPP, even then, was that the only way NPP can do well is to destroy the NDC. So even in the time of Kufuor, that really was a plan. In fact, they expressed it. It came out through J.H. Mason at the time. We said, by the time we are through with the fast track prosecution of the NDC officials, that party will cease to exist. It tells you that is essentially their motivation. We must destroy our opponent. That's the only way we can thrive. Now, any group that has that mentality is a group that is, should I call it, a primitive. It's a group that is too self-centered. It's a group that is not thinking of the well-being of a nation. because competition is nothing hateful. Competition brings the best out of us. So throughout the period of the NDC in power in 80, we did not go out to try to destroy the MPP. What we tried to simply do, we wanted to win the heart of Ghana. So we concentrated on doing as much as we can. If it's infrastructure, we want to do infrastructure. If it's providing a certain leadership of value, not perfect, but certain leadership that's trying to unite the country, that's what we aim. So our aim was to do things for Ghana that will be able to let Ghana know that you can trust in this growth. When they took over, the darkness came, and that darkness was let's destroy the opposite, let's destroy our opponent. If it's the businesses, let's collapse it. If it's about using institutions to try to put them into trouble, let's do. If we have to reach out, we reach out. Persecute, you persecute. Worse than that, they also started what you call the real manipulation of institutions. Too much money being put into the media, almost trying to turn a lot of media people into what you call mercenaries who work at the expense even of the country. I mean, starting what you call a quiet weaponization of various institutions. That even happened. I'm sure they made a lot of effort at the Electoral Commission. They couldn't succeed as they are succeeding now. But that even then happened, For example, the election in 2008, if you recall, the kind of effort MPP made to, for example, literally debase that election, to steal it at the very last minute, ready to, even if you remember very well, ready to go were important, even word that we pick, for example, their readiness to put even what you call dead bodies in water bodies in some regions of this country. I mean, tried everything possible to take power by every means. It tells you essentially the low-mindedness of the party, the desperation of the party, their desire for just raw power for the sake of power. It doesn't mean that nothing is done. They do some things. I mean, you do some things economically.
In fact,
even some of the lowest, even some of the poorest political parties also do something in all over Africa. So something was done economically and so on. But I'm talking essentially about the value system of the party. It's always been a very low value system. Compare that to what we have today is absolutely far worse. It's like the one in charge today, oh my God, compared to President Kufuor, who we thought was bad, this one absolutely is the worst of his kind. It's absolutely, I don't know how else to explain it. I can only call it that in terms of moral capacity. I can even say in terms of spiritual capacity, in terms of patriotism. What we have now is just nothing but a dwarf, moral dwarf, spiritual dwarf. If I call it in terms of consciousness, dwarfish consciousness. Now these things naturally reduce a nation, and that is what we have today. So in Anako Fuado Baomi, you're just seeing nothing but what you call moral midgets, spiritual dwarfs, people who are dwarfing the country, holding down our nation's capacity to rise and become the great eagle that is supposed to be. A nation that soars, a nation that provides hope, a nation that's a beacon, to the rest of the continent. So it's a real problem we are in. Too much what you call we have real darkness that is really holding it down. So NDC have no choice but to do what we can in order to help this country.
Well, if you just join us, I have in studio the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Fifi Fiavi Kwetey.
Fifi Fiavi Kwetey.
No.
And most people say Fifi, but it's fine, but it's supposed to be Fifi Fiavi Kwetey.
Explain that to me.
Yeah, the name actually Fifi. That's why it's written always with one I. Okay. I always make an effort when people. Well, the real name is Fifi. Yeah, original.
No. Is it ever?
Yeah, it's not. It's even though, let's say it this way, it's a little history. My father is Kofi, just as I'm Kofi.
Okay.
Yeah, so the real original name for me should be Kofi.
Okay.
Yeah, but my father is one of those very come on, I'm the only Kofi in the house. So the pet name for me then became Fifi. I'm sure. Apart from even I remember. I don't know whether you remember. There used to be this prominent journalist at Ghana Commercial Bar known as Fifi Hesse back in time. Fifi Hesse. Yes. So some dimension of Fifi is there. Fifi. So at home the name is Fifi. But of course, you know what? It's a name that is very easy to turn. When, of course, the fancies say Fifi, so naturally when you say Fifi, people invariably turn it to Fifi. When I started radio initially, anytime I call, Radio Universe was the one. I mention, what's your name? I say, Fifi. They don't say, oh, okay, Fifi. Then the next one, Fifi. So eventually I give up. So I just allowed it to happen. And Fifi is people. Different people mention it differently. Sometimes when I'm dealing with British, they say Fifi. When I'm dealing with French, they say Fifi. when you're dealing with funds and generally the account, they will say Fifi and others will say Fifi. So it's okay.
Yeah,
Whichever
Fifi.
variation of it is fine.
Fifi Fiavi
Yeah,
Kwetey.
yeah.
That's better. That's better. I understand now. I understand now. Well, he's in studio with us, so we're having a conversation. The first time I'm speaking to him since he became General Secretary, he's been promising me for a long time. And
I've kept my promise. I've kept my promise. I started August in Grand Style.
And it's always wonderful to have him in studio. And because of what you're talking about in terms of the state of the nation, one of your basic, you started work in a financial sector.
Sure.
So a lot of the time when you speak, you like to speak about
I go towards the same.
So I'm guessing you're paying particular attention to the media budget review. What was your impression when you listened? Especially because you are saying that the hole that is being left is huge.
Absolutely.
What were your impression from listening to that budget?
Let's say it this way. I it's not, and I'm going again, not just dwell on policy, but to even talk about even the let's just say this, the complete lack of humility. And that lack of humility brings along what you call a lack of candor or lack of sincerity.
Okay.
You see, what has brought this economic collapse that we have experienced is not COVID. It's not Russia and Ukraine. And I've said that. Remember during the campaign when I was here, I spoke about that umpteen time. It's not. These are challenges.
Okay.
And these challenges came not just to Ghana, but came to different countries.
Okay.
And clearly, as you can know, there's no other country anywhere in the sub-region or even in Africa that has been in the hole in which we are today.
Okay.
In none of those countries can we actually have a situation where a 40% inflation or even a prayer that it comes down to even 35 or 30 is being celebrated as a turning around the corner. There's no country in Africa, not in West Africa. Now, the very fact that the group that supervised this collapse of our country still today has not had the humility to accept that it's true that there were challenges, but we want to raise our hand and own up to the fact that a lot of where we are today came because of our irresponsibility. Our fiscal irresponsibility, our lack of love for nation, that ensured that in spite of the huge resources that came into our hands, not even at the beginning of 2000, but came even in the latter part of 2000, from July going, meaning you have just about 6 months to go. The kind of resources that came into your hand during that COVID period, those resources were massive enough that if you had used them properly, and not literally diffusing those resources into electioneering and come to leave a massive fiscal debt, a massive fiscal deficit for our country, we would not have begun the cycle that has taken us into the bottom, let's say the very down bottom where we are today. If you still do not have that humility, that courage to accept that you were responsible for taking us down that path, and in that media budget, you can see it's still the same desperation to spin, the same desperation to create impression that, you know what, we are good. Be celebrating because, you know what, we are turning the corner. Be celebrating because we are actually bringing inflation down. Be celebrating because we are hoping that the numbers will start looking good. It tells you that these people have still not learned. It's still the same level of arrogance. There's still the absence of humility, the understanding that you need to put spin second and put what you call real performance first. You also need to appreciate that everything is not all about winning an election. When especially you're managing an economy, you need to have a commitment to doing what is good first for your country before thinking election second. But consider every step of the way, because they have always been a group of people whose essential passion and obsession is power. There's nothing they think about more than what can we do that can throw some dust in the eyes of people? What can we do that we can spin? What can we do that will be able to get an election? It tells you that this is a group that simply is refusing to change. And that, for me, is the biggest problem. The economy, as I say all the time, is bad, it's terrible. But far worse than the economic collapse we see today is the complete leadership collapse that MPP represents. a group that clearly should not be anywhere near leadership of any nation. And that is a problem. And as long as you have this level of decadence and degeneration holding leadership in your country, economy, even if it comes back, would only be there for a short period. The same moral and leadership collapse that has brought that collapse will bring it down again until there is a complete lifting up of the very, shall I call it, value system of those who are leading MPP, the spirit that is driving that party. Ghana is best to make sure that party goes into opposition until it is the humble pie, become much more penitent, more remorseful, ready to be much more truthful, ready to allow the genuine patriotic fire to purify that political party and allow leaders to emerge in that political party who learn putting nation first. Leaders who are not expected to be perfect, just as we are not perfect in NEC. And to those deeper things happening in MPP, this economy will continue suffering under their hand. It doesn't mean that if you have perfect people, you will not go through economic difficulty. No, every country goes through some economic difficulty. But what it simply means that you are able to put together the kind of, shall I call it, leadership style, the kind of principles, the kind of values, and also the kind of competences and the what you call the collective knowledge that is needed to be able to resolve issues. Let me give you one typical scenario. If you look at it in terms of the approach of MPP versus the approach of NDC, when we went into headwinds between 2014 to the beginning of 2015, look at our approach. Our approach was one that said, you know what, first let us admit that there are problems. Some of it external, but of course some of it also is coming from our own leadership. So what do? We appreciate that, listen, we do not have all the solution. So in that humility, we're able to, for example, call for what you call a national dialogue on the economy. You see the approach, this is a different kind of approach. That humility to say, come on board, even the opposition MPP, come on board, let's have that conversation. Let's think about what we can do to be able to put this economy better, because Ghana is the only thing we all have together. The only nation we have together. Let's do something about it. That approach was able to create the kind of movement that brought about, first of all, a reduction in the difficulties, set the foundation that delivered the 8% growth that MPP enjoyed when they came into power in 2021, and to a large extent, even the 7% or so that they got the following year. It's an approach that shows a party much more loving, much more committed to the well-being of a country. Unfortunately, you haven't seen that. What you continue to see is just arrogance, lack of humility, lack of patriotism, selfishness, the very sad situation where a political party believes that all that matters is we need to do anything. Let's spin, let's lie, let's do anything just for the sake of power. And that's a problem.
So you're worried about the economy.
I'm worried about the economy.
But your bigger worry.
The biggest crisis in the country today is not the economy. It's a moral crisis of the group that is in charge.
Okay, so
and that moral crisis is what manifests in the economic collapse that we are seeing today. So the economy can even improve, the fundamentals can even change temporarily. But until we take out of power this very decadent bunch who do not understand that the vehicle of power, the vehicle that is in charge of a leadership of a country, must carry a certain credibility, a certain trustworthiness, a certain courage, a certain humility, a certain understanding that you need to always try to pull a nation together, humble enough to accept where you are going wrong, take responsibility, and provide a leadership that can be trusted. Until we have that leading the country, whatever economic successes we may attain, or whatever even recoveries we see in the economy, will only be fleeting or very short term at best, because the inner is what affects the outer. What is in the inner, shall I call it, situation of those who are in charge is so down, is so shall I call it, it's so odious, it's so low, that it will not be able to bring any sustainable transformation.
You are clearly not impressed, but are they doing the things for you? Are they at least doing the things that are necessary to bring the economy close to back on track?
Let's say it this way. By the very nature of the IMF program, even if you are the most, even if you are the most indisciplined, the less patriotic, the most reckless, you are forced to go through a certain discipline. Okay. So to that extent, the nation will have some good news. Okay. Because what exactly is the beginning of this whole problem? That's what I started by saying. the people, the group simply was not loving enough for the nation to make sure even the necessary discipline that will ensure that there's economic stability remains. So if you start from the platform where you are lying to a country about what it is you want to, for example, achieve in terms of development, you lie to the country about the revenue of the country and tell people that, listen, I have the magic wand to be able to reduce taxation. I don't even need to borrow. At the same time, I'm able to accomplish all the things I'm promising to accomplish. 1 million in every constituency, one village, one dam, one district, one factory in any free school education. All the things that they promise. If you start on that premise, you naturally are going to sink the country, and that's really what has happened economically. You understand? So I'm saying that IMF would absolutely ensure that nonsense doesn't happen, because in IMF you are not going to spend what you don't have. So you want to spend on any of that, you must prove that you have the money you are generating. Now, if you don't generate the money, you will not be allowed to spend. So at least that helps the country keep that discipline. That helps the country gradually reach levels of stability. You understand? Of course, some of the support that the IMF is giving. I mean, for example, we just had, I think by the end of June or so, we got the tranche that came, and that also provides some kind of leeway. That helps, for example, the currency stability. That also gives investors generally an assurance that, okay, gradually things are becoming more stable, and therefore, okay, let's not give up completely on the country, which is important. You understand? So to that extent, the IMF program literally prevents a reckless regime from being as reckless as they have been over the last 7 years. So that helps the country, and that, to an extent, become a little of hope for the party NAC, I'm sure, taking over. But the whole day of dark is still massive. If you look at the debt, for example, the debt is massive. And the debt accumulated, as you remember, we left the country at the time where the total debt was about 120 billion. I mean, look at the amount of debt they have accumulated over just this period. It's massive. It's huge. So dealing with that is going to still require a certain leadership that will bring everybody on board, get the best of ideas, also be much more candid, much more frank to the country, and let the country appreciate the difficulties, and therefore be able to let the country show the patience that is needed for some of the tough decisions that we have to take when we take power. So what is ahead is still going to be difficult, but at least what the IMF is going to give us now is at least a reduction in, let's call it this way, if the hole was going to be so much big, IMF is ensuring that at least it's a relatively less deeper hole than you come and feel, but it's going to still be a big hole. And I don't know if President Mahama, that we believe is going to be the next president of the country, because he's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting again when it comes.
Well, then let me take you to the Bank of Ghana. Okay. Have you seen the financial statement?
I wouldn't say I've been fully privy to everything. In the position I am now, I'm not always able to be abreast of every single thing like it used to be the case. But I think generally fair ideas, but not so many, not so many details. Yeah.
What do you think? Because there are those who are not only talking about the kind of expenditures that have been done, the nature of it. Bank of Ghana eventually printing money and dashing it to government, trying to the bank is sacrificing itself for the government, and then their own expenditures at the back door. And then there are those who are also then talking about the manner in which they've been handling the matter of inflation, increasing policy rates, and a general misunderstanding of the economic situation. What do you think of the Bank of Ghana as we have it currently?
Let me tell you this way. What I see is it's not just limited to Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
It's generally what is happening to many institutions under the NPP, where instead of encouraging leadership of institutions to always remember they have to place the well-being of the state first, a lot of the leaders of these institutions are almost now becoming like just what you call tools that have to be used by the ruling party. So somehow they are not appreciating that I'm not just here under a ruling party, I'm also here for a nation. So my number one job is ensure that the state's well-being is secured. So when you have a situation, for example, electoral commission is now being led by people who effectively are much more willing to be pliant tools of a ruling party. if you have that same situation, occurring now in this or the central bank, we're appreciating that your responsibility number one is to ensure the well-being of the finances of the country. So that's why you have even been empowered to actually show some independence, the capacity to say, this is the limit, we cannot do beyond that. And we had that when we were in office. Even though they were by the very nature of a central bank collaborate very closely with the Ministry of Finance. When I was at the Ministry of Finance, there were moments where the leadership of the central bank would simply say, hey, to this level and not more. You draw a certain line to this level and not more. Now, but if you don't have that, you almost having a situation where the people who are in charge of the central bank of the country almost themselves are becoming like what you call an MPP, should I call it, technocrats, who feel their number one priority is to defend a ruling party as opposed to do what you got to do for the well-being of a nation. You have the kind of problems you have. You understand? So it's like you are sacrificing your professional integrity. Your ethics as a professional simply because you want to make the ruling party happier. That becomes a problem. So that's what you see at the level of central bank. That's what, unfortunately, you see at the level of electoral commission as well. That's what you see in many other institutions. I want to say happily that I want to applaud the fact, for example, that the current IGP has made a lot of effort, for example, to ensure that at least leadership of the police as an institution is trying very hard to reassert itself again as a state institution whose number one responsibility to have this what you call fidelity to the well-being of the state first and foremost. That's what we need to work for. Building institutions are not just strong, as Obama said, but institutions that have the courage to fight for the state before wanting to become what you call tools to be used by a ruling party. And I can say that President Mahama will show that commitment to perfecting state, to making sure state work for nation and the well-being of the nation, and not simply become pliant tools that any ruling party want to use simply because that ruling party want to achieve certain short-term aims. That's the only way some balance can be restored. And it's sad but not surprising that the NPP is difficult for a lot of these institutions to want to do what is right.
Well, I have in studio Fifi.
You got it right. You got it right.
A couple of things to deal with. One, there are those who keep asking, is the NDC ready?
Okay.
Is that a process or a state?
Okay.
When they ask, have you been asked that question before?
Course.
Is the NDC ready? How do you respond to that?
What I would say is this. You just like a football team, you need to work on yourself, on every aspect of your game, even long before the whistle is blown. So that process, that's a process. It's not an event. It's a process. So I would say between January when we took over to now, it's been at least that process leading towards a party to be ready for battle.
Okay.
So beginning of some of the changes that, for example, we needed to implement. First of all, even the very effort to try to, shall I call it, strengthen even our discipline as a party, our commitment to the core of the party first. And so those are all processes that lead to battle. Sometimes people think battleness is simply readiness, for example, like come on air and blast the NPP and then put people on the street against them. But that is fine. Those are the general things that you also need to do, but there are internal things that must be ready.
Okay.
So first of all, the party structures itself, we have to look at the party structure. So we've gone through a period of several months now doing things even at the level of party. For example, preparing the party towards what you call the presidential parliamentary primaries, which largely has been done. We are left with some 17 or so or 18 or so to be able to finish. Generally prepare the party for 2 by-elections.
Okay.
And the most recent one, of course, you've seen the outcome. We look at the system, what happened in Kumeo, perfected those systems in order to be able to get what we have gotten in Asin now. So that's a party gradually getting ready. But I can tell you, we are just, for example, about to now move into a phase where we can appoint a full spectrum of party leadership.
Okay.
Remember when we came, we held a number of positions and said they should hold until we elect the flag bearer. That flag bearer has not ever been elected. We would have done so soon after, but because of by-elections. But now that we have put the by-election behind us, we are getting to that stage where we can now have what you call a full appointment of the various directories of the party.
Okay.
Where changes need to be done, do changes. Where we have to do retention. Start into the appointment of the committees of the party, where you are bringing a pool of people that you want to draw. Then generally now drawing strategies towards things not to do, for example, manifesto, the message, issues about the financing, generally putting together a machinery that is ready to be able to now go into a full-scale, should I call it, campaign, to be able to help the party. Systems that will bring about better collation of results, how to harmonize better systems, to how to train our party agent, how to identify where the difficulties are, which constituencies represent difficulties, which regions where there are problems, what the problems are, and how to strategically address some of those problems. How to, at the end of it all, not just get your base ready for battle, but also have a message and have a conduct that will inspire what I would call the independent, because there are independents in the country. Anybody who has voted NPP, voted NDC once before is, to understand, some independent. Those are people who easily can flip depending upon how they feel the leadership of the party is conducting itself, what confidence we show, how ready we show, how much care we show about the country, and so on. So we need to get ourselves in that position, led of course by the flag bearer, supported by the party leadership across the various structures from national all the way to the branch level, to be able to be in a position where not only is our support base ready to go out there and fight for the party for victory and also work hard for that victory, we also are in a position to attract independent people, or what we call floating voters, or people whose mind is not always on one party, to see that this is a vehicle to go. One of the big job, for example, has to do with the younger population of Ghana. Because if you're able to show to the young population that you are a vehicle that carries their hope better, you understand them better, you are ready to work closer to them, you are not coming with an arrogant approach, you are coming with an approach that appreciates who they are and how we can together find answers for their problem, then a vehicle is ready. So I would say yes, we can be much more ready, but we are in the process of readying ourselves in order to be in that position when the moment comes. When the whistle goes, we'll be able to say we are ready for full battle when the whistle blows.
A few things. There are those who cannot wait for one thing. Have you been reading the newspapers lately? How constantly do you do that?
I try. I'll try.
There's a constant mentioning of a running mate.
Okay.
And the fact that there's a hot contest within your parties for running mate position.
Okay.
I know this is the job of the flag bearer, but I understand that the flag bearer tends to not like to act alone and have a conversation most of the time. Do you have a running mate?
As in, is there an announcement or running mate? Of course, there's no announcement.
Is there an agreement that you are here to announce?
Oh, I would think we need to. We need to put ourselves through a number of, should I call it, stages before you have a running mate. I don't remember a running mate having been anywhere near to announcement in a year prior to an election. I don't remember the last time that happened. At least in DC, we've never seen that. We didn't see that when Rawlings was the candidate. We didn't see that when Prof. Mills was the candidate. And of course, even for President Mahama, we haven't seen that as well, President Mahama. So I do not anticipate that this year is going to be anywhere near that kind of situation. But as you must know, it's the flag bearer's prerogative. And the party at all moments will want to stand behind the flag bearer and appreciate it. At the end of the day, he is going to be on that horse. And therefore, that first choice as to who want to partner, he feels best to partner him, is his choice. Of course, the party will be there to provide guidance, to provide some help. To be able to say what choice you want to make, if it's a number of choices and so on. But I really don't think that. But you can understand, the jostling is normal. People feel an opportunity. Humans are normally like that. When they feel an opportunity, they want to do what they've got to do. The only thing I can tell you is simple. Knowing this party, as I've known this party, right from the very beginning to now, from 1992 to now, those who do too much lobbying end up being disappointed.
Those who do too much
lobbying end up being disappointed. Why? Because I think this party, to a certain extent, has a problem with people who put themselves too much in the forefront and people who like to orchestrate too much. Because when you show clearly that you want it too much, the question then is, why do you want it that much? What do you want it that much? If it's a choice that has to be made by someone, Why can't you trust that maybe that person will be able to see you for the good thing that you have or the good thing you do? So when you do too much of all this orchestration, trying to orchestrate to put yourself in the newspapers, trying to get people who will be calling your name on stations and stuff nature, some way somehow this party tends to should I call it indirectly not reward such conduct. And I can tell you that right from the time Rollins wanted to make his what you call appointment of his successor, I mean, some of these people who went behind all kinds of orchestration at the time were manipulating newspaper articles in the Daily Graphic, the Times, and so on. None of them ended up becoming a running man. Prof. Mills, who actually was lobbying nobody, was the one who emerged. John Mahama lobbied nobody. He emerged as Prof. Mills candidate. And largely, I think that's really what it is. I don't think Nana Jane emerged on the back of her personal lobbying or her kind of trying to, you understand, even when her name emerged, it was a surprise. So this party has had a record of encouraging people who have a certain amount of patience. Like Prof. Mills said, people who are not too desperate for power. That's what this party has tended to encourage. So if you're one of those people who believe that, I'm going to use some mafia means, I'm going to give money to people, get journalists who can be shouting my name, to foot soldiers or what you call serial callers to be mentioning your name, greeting you every morning, planting stories, trying to bring down others, take yourself up. The history of this party, that tells me your end will not be a good end in terms of what it is you're looking for. So better start putting the party first and appreciating that in the wisdom of the flag bearer and the wisdom of the leaders of the party. If you truly have the personality, you truly have the love of party, you truly have the track record, you truly have the values that ensure that you will be there, that choice will be made in the right time. But if you do not have it, you think and use all this manipulation, you will not succeed.
We have to go. Just that, when are you doing the UK elections?
When the UK, oh, you mean the
the UK NDC chapter. Lots of them are my friends. I see Chief Malik trying to type something.
I know.
What is happening?
No, let's say it this way. Naturally, in every political party, there are instances where certain levels of structures, there are issues that need to be looked at. The UK chapter is one where there are a number of issues. They've come to our attention. So what it is, we put a team to look at the various issues and submit a proper, comprehensive analysis, which will take time to sit on, evaluate, discuss. Then on the back of that, we are in a position to make appropriate recommendations for how things ought to be done. But then again, it's never going to be asking for too much. When I repeat again for the umpteenth time, that a lot of problems would actually not be if every one of us will understand that this party essentially is about arising for Ghana.
Okay.
That's exactly what I want to say. Arise for Ghana. It means if you genuinely are in this party, because of the genuine commitment you have for nation, it means that you always appreciate that essentially membership of this party, especially if you're looking for leadership of the party, should be for people whose real love and fire for nation, and therefore love and fire for party, always make them want to put the party and the nation first rather than put their individual selfish ambition first. If all of us can make a bit of that effort, a lot of the problems will be resolved. But it is often when people put their personal interests ahead of the collective interest, that's where problems happen. So we'll be making that effort, but our effort is not enough. We also need to be able to have the discipline and also the strength to ensure that there is fairness in the structures. And you can be sure, as CEO of this party, you can be sure about one thing: the courage to do what is right, the strength to ensure that the right thing gets done, no matter who is involved, whether it's a friend or foe. We have to do what we've got to do. That the party structures all the way to branches can ensure that as far as some of us are here, we would fight to make sure the right thing gets done. There's nothing about my friend and therefore I bend a rule, or my enemy therefore I do something. No, we just want to ensure that things get done well. So we want to always look at all the issues, understand as much as possible. Then when we are taking decisions, we're taking decisions that's firm and also fair for the well-being of our party.